Ladies and gentlemen, welcome into my college football best bets for week number 8 as we continue rolling throughout the college football season. Guys, feeling very good about this week. Let's get right into it. Number 1, this is a weekday game. We're going to take the over on the UAB at Western Kentucky game. Both of these offenses explosive enough to produce points into the 30s. And again, you get these, weeknight games. They tend to be higher scoring. Both of these offense, especially Western Kentucky with their quarterback Austin Reed, really like their offense. Very competitive game. UAB is a team that has had a ton of hype in the preseason, kind of struggled a little bit against Charlotte, but still produced 34 points. This is going to be a close game. I'm expecting something like 37-34. I think the over-under in this game should have been like 61 or 62, at least into the 60s. 57.5 I view is good value for two very good offenses, and that conference produces a lot of points every single week. Number 2, we're going to take Ohio State minus the 29 in a home game against Iowa. I think there's a lot of similarities between this Ohio State-Iowa game this week and the Georgia Vanderbilt game last week. Now, obviously, Iowa's a lot better than Vanderbilt, but it's just their offenses are both so bad. I'm very concerned about Iowa possibly getting shut out in this game. If that happens, Ohio State obviously would cover the 29. I understand why this, value is 29. It's due to Iowa's good defense, and I do think they have a chance to frustrate C.J. Stroud, but I am under the impression Ohio State will possibly have JSN back. You've got JSN, Marvin Harrison Jr., Julian Fleming, Emeka Egbuka, and Trevion Henderson. So the Buckeyes, maybe something like 41-3, 38-3, even a 38-7 game would give you the 29-point cover. Again, it's really the only reason it's that low is because of the Iowa defense. They do have a good defense. We respect them, but I'll take the Buckeyes at home, coming off a bye week, getting healthier to cover the 29. Number 3, UL Monroe at Army. I'm taking the under 55.5. This is one of those noon game situations. I like to fade the over on some of these noon games, especially a game, UL Monroe, they've been involved in a few close, low-scoring games. Army's a team that loves running the ball. And again, it's an early game. There's no need to force the issue on something like this. Let's take the easy wins. I'm sniping these games. I'm finding them. And this is my noon game that will go under. We're looking at a lower scoring close, possibly 24-21 type game with Army having full ball control. Lower scoring competitive, the under 55.5 will hit, in my opinion. Guys, how can I not do this? I have to. UCLA plus the 6 at Oregon. UCLA has been so unbelievable this year. Oregon had the week 1 loss, and they've come back and played great. You would think Oregon would be due for a down game, but I guess you'd also think UCLA would be due for a loss. Either way, I think you're getting good value. Plus 6 gives you a little bit of wiggle room if Oregon makes some crazy comeback or, they win by 3 or 4, whatever. Either way, UCLA, you're getting wiggle room with an undefeated team. They are on the road. It is going to be a hostile environment, but guys, trust Chip Kelly. Trust Chip Kelly. He will make you a billionaire in this matchup. Number 5, Toledo at Buffalo. We're taking the over 61.5. Toledo's offense is legitimately very, very good, even though they are a MAC team. And Buffalo, I think the only reason this over-under is not 66 or 67 is due to Buffalo's decent defense. Either way, I love both of these teams to score a bunch. Toledo, a touchdown favorite in this game. This game could play out very similar to the last week game with Toledo possibly getting down early and then coming back, scoring into the 40s. I like the over 61.5 in this MAC matchup. I think this game might be a 3:30 or 2 start. I'm not exactly sure, but either way, I like the over. Central Michigan, I'll take them minus 6.5 versus Bowling Green. So guys, last week I totally blew it. I originally had Bowling Green, I believe it was +7 versus Miami of Ohio, I think. And I was going to do that bet, but then I said no, I changed it and I put the over. And of course, Bowling Green wins outright and the under hits. This week, I'm treating it normal. I'm just taking Central Michigan at home, minus the 6.5. Bowling Green did win last week, but guys, they're still a horrible football team. They're on the road, and this line dropped 7.5 to 6.5. Really like that. So they win by a touchdown. You cover. Bowling Green, really bad team. Central Michigan, better than their record. Central Michigan, better than their record. I will take them minus 6.5. Number 7, Eastern Michigan at Ball State will take the under 55.5. Ball State has a horrible offense. Eastern Michigan is a very bipolar team that can be shut down on offense. We saw them get shut down against UMass and a few other teams. So Eastern Michigan on the road in this matchup. I'm liking a low-scoring, close game. 55.5. There's some really nice wiggle room in my opinion, so I'll take the under in that one. West Virginia at Texas Tech, I'm taking the over, 68.5. Really, it's just these Big 12 games, we've got to start taking advantage of them. They're shootouts, it's constant, it's every week, it's an auto lock. There's several games like this. West Virginia with JT Daniels breaking out on that Thursday night game against a good Baylor defense. They're on the road at a Texas Tech team. This should be a shootout. We're turning it back to 2015, 2016 with these Big 12 offenses, and you get both of these teams possibly into the 40s. 68.5, it's a big number, but in my opinion, it's kind of like that Washington game last week, which was like at 73, and it still goes over. It's just not big enough. I will take the over. Number 9, La Tech plus the 2.5 versus Rice. So Rice actually, I believe, got a big win this past week. 4-point underdogs. They beat FAU. This week, I think Louisiana Tech has a way more explosive offense. They're at home. I think Louisiana Tech wins this game outright. It's a parity game. They're plus 2.5 right now versus Rice, who I haven't liked since the beginning of the season. I like Louisiana Tech there. Number 10, LSU plus 1.5 versus Ole Miss. This spread has already moved to a pick'em, and I would still pick LSU in a pick'em. But I would say right now, because it is a pick'em, if someone was betting on this game, you might actually want to wait because people might start finding value in Ole Miss, and you could get LSU back to +1 or +2. I don't know if that's going to happen. Maybe it turns completely to where LSU is a small favorite. But either way, Ole Miss, in my opinion, is due for a loss. LSU, they've already got a few losses. This is a parity game. LSU is at home. They've got an offense that's proven this past week they can score a ton of points. Ole Miss, actually, their quarterback, their offensive play has been really good. My main concern with them is their defense overall against Auburn. Vanderbilt early on was competitive in scoring points on them. So LSU at home, they need this win. Brian Kelly needs a really big win against the top 10 team. I think they get it. I've got them winning that game. Moving on to my 11th pick, Penn State minus 4.5 versus Minnesota. So guys, it's very tough because Penn State played horribly last week on the road in Ann Arbor. It was disgusting. They got annihilated. But this is a situation. They're at home. They're only minus 4.5. I don't see Minnesota with a backup quarterback being all that competitive in this game. If I'm Penn State, I am loading the box. You've got the crowd support. You've got the whiteout. You know you have to win this game. You just got crushed by Michigan. You've got Ohio State next week. You're going to be 2-touchdown underdogs. This is a must win, and it's a game that I think they cover. I do have faith in Sean Clifford in a game like this where he's a veteran and you're at home, and hopefully you get some big energy from the crowd and the defense due to Minnesota starting a very inexperienced quarterback on the road, very loud, playing to the whiteout. Give me Penn State to cover the 4.5. Number 12, BYU at Liberty. I'll take the over 57.5. So, guys, Liberty can score, even though they almost lose to Gardner-Webb. And BYU, I just cannot get the game that I watched BYU play against Arkansas out of my head. BYU might have the worst defense in college football. So the fact that the over-under is 57.5 is just crazy to me. Horrible tackling against KJ Jefferson in Arkansas. I mean, we're talking Big 12 2015, 2014 Baylor level bad. That's how bad BYU's defense was at least last week. And Liberty, I guess I can understand this line being 57.5. They struggled against Gardner-Webb, but still, if you're talking about these teams going back and forth, BYU has a horrible defense, higher scoring game. I'll take the over 57.5 in that one. Number 13, Maryland minus the 14 versus Northwestern. So I think this line is minus 13.5 right now. I just think Northwestern sucks, and Maryland is due for a cover after last week. They were 12-point favorites. They barely escaped with a win, but I still think Maryland is a team that has a legitimately good offense, and you're at home, right around 2 touchdowns favors. This game kind of reminds me of the Nebraska-Purdue line, where Purdue was like 14-point favorites and everyone was like, oh, jumping on Purdue. They don't cover. I think there's one major difference. Nebraska is 10 times better than Northwestern at this point in the season. I know Northwestern won the Week 0 game, but at this point in the season, Northwestern legitimately is one of the worst Power 5 teams in college football, and they're on the road facing a semi-explosive offense in Maryland. And again, guys, Maryland, in my opinion, is due for a cover. Remember, Northwestern, I believe the last time they played, they got annihilated by a Wisconsin team that just lost to Michigan State. Give me Maryland minus the 14 or 13.5 or whatever it is. Next, we've got Western Michigan plus the 6 at Miami of Ohio. I think Western Michigan could win this game outright. This is a MAC parity game. Miami of Ohio is simply not very good, so I'll take Western Michigan plus the 6. Number 15, James Madison minus 12. I believe this is minus 13 right now. It's gotten bet up versus Marshall. Guys, Marshall had that crazy, upset win week 2 against Notre Dame. They are in a total tailspin. James Madison at home is going to be pissed. They finally get ranked. They lose in a shootout to Georgia Southern. Now they're at home. They are going, what were they, 5-0, 6-0 against the spread. They don't cover. Now they're around 12, 13-point favorites again. They're going to annihilate Marshall. This is a Marshall team that just lost to Louisiana when they were 10-point favorites at home. Marshall's offense has been horrible. Give me James Madison to win this game, 43-17. Number 16, Arizona State at Stanford. We're going with the under 54.5. So, guys, the strategy behind this game is being played at 1 o'clock Pacific time. There's going to be nobody in the stands. We're talking about a low scoring game. Both of these offenses not generating much. Stanford with a very impressive upset win using their defense against Notre Dame last week. It's going to be a low scoring game. It's a 1 o'clock start. There's going to be no atmosphere. It's going to be 3-3 at the half. This will be a very easy under. This is a game I'm sniping. I'm telling you guys, the under in this game will hit. Number 17, Pitt at Louisville. One of the best bets of the week, the over 56.5. So this game right around, I believe it opened as a pick'em. It's gone to Louisville, the home team, -1. Malik Cunningham, Pittsburgh's running back. They can still throw a little bit. There's going to be a lot of offense. This could turn into a 48-30 type game, or like a 40-38, something like that. Higher scoring either way. I think the over-under in this game should have been set at least at 59 or 60. I think there's great value in the over 56.5. Guys, I've got to do it. We've got to go in on my man crush, UCF. They should be ranked. I'll take a -5 at a very explosive East Carolina team. I don't like doubling down on the best bets, but I would also go with the over. I believe it might be in the 60s. It might be like 64 or 65. I'll still take the over in this game. UCF has a ridiculous offense. They scored 70 points last week alone in their total thrashing of Temple. And now they go on the road, and this team, they're on a complete warpath right now. UCF football, get on the train or get run over, -5. East Carolina, they're not a bad team. They have an explosive offense. But this game, we're talking about like 50-20. UCF is just physically unbelievable. Number 19, Washington -7.5 at Cal. So this line surprises me a little bit. I know Washington has a very good offense, a very bad defense, but California genuinely is horrible. California just lost to Colorado. I know this is a road game for Washington, but they have such an explosive offense. If they can at least get into the 30s, I don't see California scoring all that much. Personally, I will take Washington. It's an annoying spread. 7.5 is a miserable spread to cover. You basically have to win by 10, just because it's just weird. But I'll still take Washington minus the 7.5. And then I'll also take Kansas State +5 at TCU as a value play. We're looking at a potential parity game with possibly Kansas State beating TCU in an upset. TCU is the cat that has 9 lives. They're constantly trailing in games. They're constantly coming back. They barely beat Kansas. They barely beat Oklahoma State. They might win this game, but they're always close. Kansas State has a good defense. They've got a really good run game, and they're coming off a bye. TCU coming off that very emotional win. I think there's good value plus the 5 for Kansas State, although I'll have to see if that line moved at all. I would guess if it moves, it's going to go. I mean, I would bet on there's no way that line goes to 6 or 7 in my opinion, but who knows? Either way, guys, those are my top 10 best bets for week number 8. If you have a bet that you absolutely love, say it in the comments and maybe I'll talk about it in another video. Because sometimes people have bets where they're like, listen, this is going to happen, and it does, and I agree with it, and then it's like we can kind of, if we're both thinking the same thing, it's more likely to happen. But either way, guys, those are my best bets for week number 8. Make sure you're following me on Twitter. Link to that's always in the description. I'm, of course, the Depressed Ginger. Thank you for watching.